Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Saenz, and this week we are doing a draw with me. Hell yeah. This week I was figuring that we would do a draw with me, and we are going to do Dragon Ball Z. Everyone who knows me in real life knows that I'm a Dragon Ball Z bitch. Hold on a second. You know what I'm doing? I'm committing a sin. Capsule Corp. It's actually the one with Trunks and Frieza were fighting, and it was the coolest ever, and I loved it. For drawing with me videos, you're gonna draw with me, right? Hell yeah, you are, because you want to know how to draw that badass bitch called Vegeta. Everybody does. So what are you gonna need for this project? Well, first things first, you're gonna need paper. You could use other things, but paper's pretty cheap. It was only $2.50 for a pack of 500. You can't really lose, I'm sorry. You're definitely gonna need a pencil. This is my Totoro pencil that I got while I was in Osaka, Japan. It's actually a .003, but you can use any lead pencil that you want, or the regular number 2 pencils, whatever. Here in America, we only go to .005, which is pretty small, but 003 is to get those like really delicate lines, and I've never been happier. Let's just admit it. Along the road, we're gonna make some mistakes, and we can't beat ourselves up about it, so just go ahead and grab your eraser. I always recommend these high polymer erasers because they erase easily without tearing your paper or smudging anything. It just comes up really nice, and the ultimate kind of eraser is the kind that doesn't leave anything behind. But this one is where it's at. You can buy a pack of 6. Once you're done with your outline, you are going to be making the line art with a pen. Again, you can get a pack of like 20 of these for like $2 at your store. And then it's no fun if you don't color it in, so go ahead and grab your markers or coloring pencils or your gel pens or whatever you do to color and just have some fun. But grab those out, it's gonna be a blasty blast. Here's the thing, I'm a rich bitch and I have a drawing tablet. I actually have an XP pen. It's 21.5 inches and I'm using Clip Studio Paint, which is all digital software. In fact, let me show you. Ta-da! Yay, I actually have a pen and everything that I can use to draw, and you can just follow along with me. Is this part of the draw with me, Ashley? No, it's not, but I'm just saying, loads of fun. You have to have fun with it, because if you're not having fun while you're learning, you're not really gonna learn it. You're not gonna retain anything. First things first, we're gonna have to go ahead and pull up some references. Now, don't worry, you're allowed to look at references. When you're a beginner artist, you've got to look at stuff. You have to learn what you're looking at and keep looking at it. You cannot draw what you're thinking. You need a reference first. This is why artists create mood boards. It's to remind you of it's to give you this stimulation that you need to remember the essence that you're trying to put into your work. So if I'm really trying to draw Dragon Ball Z, but I wanted to pick the time that was most nostalgic to me when I was watching DBZ for the first time, which typically was about 3 p.m. after school every day. I would come home and Dragon Ball Z was playing. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's just, find a picture. We'll start with Vegeta. We want these reference pictures because we need to remember how Akira Toriyama really wanted them to be put, on display. And honestly, I just think that Vegeta is most handsome in this one. So that's what I'm going to start with. Now, you want to study the picture pretty easily. Normally, as a young artist with your baby brains, you'd be wanting to trace and kind of get the feeling of where things are, which is totally fine when you're first learning. But as you're starting to train your eye and your hand to recognize shapes, you want to recognize shapes. That's when you start breaking down the picture that you saw. So we're just going to do that really quick so we can kind of get an essence of what Vegeta's face is like being composed of. If you can kind of imagine that the head starts here in a bit of a circle, because when you start in human anatomy, that usually works. Now you don't have to draw this yet. I'm just going to break down this picture first, and then you can draw with me. So just give it a second. I'm trying to show you what your eye needs to see. So pretend there's this big circle in the middle of the head. How do I know that it needs to be here? Because when you go to make the face, you are following some invisible lines where everything kind of connects. So if I were to start here at the top and I come down to Vegeta's hairline, down to the middle of his eyebrows, through his nose, his mouth, and down to his chin, like this. But then also if I come up around here and follow where his eyes are going to his ears, you can already tell the position of the face. Now if I were to take that away, all you have is this circle and comes down, but it comes together where you can see where the direction of that face is going, which is kind of here, even though he's looking at you here. That kind of looks like fish. Sorry, my bad. But you know, he's looking at you through here, but his face is turned to the left. Now we're gonna try this. Now that you know where his face is pointing, you want to see what are these shapes on his sides doing. Back in the olden days, it used to be more sharp. I noticed with older pictures, but it's kind of smoothed out in recent years. So we'll come here and kind of see these curves. You want to notice that there are squares for his eyebrows, which kind of come down into a hook. It makes him very evil and menacing looking. And you'll notice that his eyes are actually like connected to those eyebrows. There is no space in between like you would see with us in real life. I'll break it down as I'm drawing with him. But really, once you notice that like this is a triangle, you have lots of squares and kind of half triangles and these like slightly oblong shapes. Again, more triangles, more triangles. If you had to break him down, it's nothing but triangles and squares and some sharp lines, you know, that come around. And then the next thing you would focus on would be lighting and shadows, but we'll get to that much later, don't worry. You want to learn how to draw Vegeta? Let's try this out. On your piece of paper, again, chill out. Don't act like you're gonna stab anybody, okay? Hold it comfortably. Try and give yourself some space away from your paper. You know, you want to draw without smudging it with the back of your hand. It's okay if you do. It's not the end of the world. I'm just saying you want to start training yourself from the very beginning, because if you start smudging shit, you're going to get discouraged and you're not going to want to do it later, and it's just bad practice. So yeah, just like that. Just how I'm sitting, that's how you should be sitting. What we did earlier, again, was kind of build this circle. So we can actually start doing that on our paper too. Draw the circle where Vegeta's head is going to be. And then we're going to come down and we're going to go from the top of his head through his eyebrows, through his nose, his mouth, to his chin. And it kind of stops here at his shoulder / collarbone area, whatever. Because of where his eyes are going to be, I'm going through the middle of his eyes. That will then kind of taper off at the top of his ear on the other side. Your eyes and your ear will always line up. The top of your ear will always line up to your eyes, and the bottom of your ear will always line up to your mouth. You have to keep looking. You can't just assume that Vegeta looks a certain way because you know what he looks like in your mind. You got to put it line for line over here. Again, through his eyes, through his eyes. What about the sides of his face? How do we want to do that? Well, that's again where these kind of mapped out lines go out. Do you see where I have the circle of his face? So now we can come down from the top and come down and touch into a bit of a curve on that line. And again, with Vegeta, you're gonna come out again. This is gonna be his high cheekbones, and it's gonna come down like this. And again, it doesn't have to be super perfect, but you can just kind of look and follow, like, what does that really feel like? One, you know, in this like kind of, yeah, he's got a bit of this like hard chin, you know, he's got to be stubborn a little bit. He's got that really sharp jaw that kind of comes up, and then another line that will come up to meet like right here. Obviously, you can see it. It's just like, it's pretty self-explanatory. But still, some people just don't see it until you point it out for them, which is totally fine. This kind of reminds me of a color by number deal, but it's really not. You're just connecting stuff and trying to see what that really looks like, you know? Which is fine. That's what you're supposed to do. And then eventually, once you get it done, you'll have the muscle memory anyway, and then you won't have to look at the reference as much, you know, or at all. With Vegeta's hairline now, he has this hair that kind of looks like a McDonald's arch. If you can't not see that anymore, you're welcome. But yeah, get that McDonald's arch and come down and notice how he's got the sideburns going on. And these sideburns, again, stop with his eyes. his actual eyes stopping over his ear, but the bottom half stopping with the sideburn. So that's how we're gonna go ahead and do here. This is where his eyebrows are gonna be, but this is where his hairline is gonna be, where that circle was over here. Go ahead and put on some McDonald's arches over there. Come around and kind of swoop, have an angle there, and come down for his sideburns. Now you can see where the line was originally coming up a while ago, where it was over his ears like this. Wherever that line is, you have it over here. You're gonna make this kind of point, a triangle bit. So you got down, down. Now that it's down, you're gonna see that it kind of comes and loops back this way, and you start making the earlobes and this bit. It's all just like one singular line almost. It can be done in one swoop, and it just takes a little bit of practice. Don't guess at what that looks like. Look at this picture and follow what the artist originally did. I'll start up with the upper area, comes down into this little hook bit, and comes down again, and then there. And then your earlobe up in here tends to have that like little ridge. I know it's a little hard to see. Everything you need is already in the drawing itself. You can always clean this up a little bit and make it, you know, more defined. It's okay if it takes you a while. Don't be such a perfectionist, okay? You don't need to be. You're trying to have fun and you're trying to be lucid and just learn where these things are. Don't worry if it looks exactly like it. Just practice. You'll get there eventually. Again, we're just breaking down, what do his eyebrows look like? What does evil look like? It's like a giant ass V right to the center of his nose. Can we do that? Yes, we can. We're gonna go over here and go up, and then we're also gonna connect that V because his nose is literally right here. It's gonna be a triangle. You don't have to draw it yet. Just hold on. Just his eyebrows are coming up here. They are a V. Then for here, it comes down. They show like this little bit of accents, like a couple of lines to show that his eyebrows taper out. They do kind of come around to this check mark looking shape. It's kind of like, you know, just do it, just be Saiyan. So that's what we want to do. And come around and then sharp down angle. And then again, a slight nick right here because it is more of a square, you know, rectangle shapes. Kind of like that. Tapers off, all that. He's also, you might notice he's also got this bit up here because he's a bit of a hothead. He has a very distinct type, and like I said, we're gonna be erasing sometimes. It's okay. You're allowed to mess up. Once you mess up, you know how to fix it and you get better immediately. It's called strategic failure. Repeat after me, y'all. Strategic failure. You have to see what you're doing wrong so you can correct it later, and that's how you get better. If you suck at something, and if people tell you suck at something, that is your clue and your challenge to do better next time. You can learn. Let's keep going. Alrighty. There's also this nifty little feature called flipping. Flipping helps take your eye off of what you're doing so you're not focusing too hard on anything. You can still do it with your paper that you're drawing on as well. You should know just as well as I do that if you're drawing, okay, so you have the heart, whatever, it's ugly, but if you flip it, you can now see what it looks different. It looks okay. It had looked okay. Maybe it's a little smudged right here, but if you're like, well, how would I know that it looks this way if I've been staring at it and I've been trying to do it properly all the time? Just flip that bad boy and then you'll be like, oh, I know now I need to bring that down more or something. It gets your eye off of needing to be a perfectionist about it. We are going to go ahead and again follow this all the way down this way and make a hook. Boom chocolate. This is just the line art, okay? You're still gonna go over it in ink. There's no reason to freak out about it needing to be perfect right this minute. Okay, so again, you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. There's a bit of this hook here on the other side. You don't have to see any tapering. You don't see it in the original, so don't worry about that. You're not worried about what you can't see. And again, they're not actually touching, so you do want to take a little bit of space away. Now, what does Vegeta have here that's super distinct about Vegeta other than his angry ass eyebrows? It's his actual brow line, the semi-muscle so grandiose on his forehead. that he kind of needs it to make this almost a square shape on his face. Like, if it were to take up all of that, like, you would know instantly who it is, just because it gives him emphasis on how menacing he could possibly look. Again, don't guess, just kind of look. Like, what does that look like? It's a little blurry, won't lie, so I am going to just kind of wing it a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these lines because I personally don't need them. In fact, to train your eye a bit more, notice here that there is no line, but it's invisible, that you can see a line going from the bottom of his ears to this part of his sideburn. He has a bit, again, of triangle, square eyeballs going on that are connected, that come up like this, and some solid eyes, which are darkened out. Here we go. We follow that line a little bit and then come down at an angle. Even though his eye seems to be pretty big on this side, it's really just an illusion to help make sure that the way that he's looking at you in the right direction. But even then, I would argue that we can make that a little easier, I guess, to look at. One of the very specific attributes to a Super Saiyan, at least in Akira Toriyama's work, is like you have these lines on the cheek that kind of show creases. Like, you know, the creases under your eyes or whatever. That's what we're trying to do here a little bit. You have this triangle coming out here, like this triangle. And the triangle will come down to wherever the mouth is going to be. And you might think, wow, that mouth is like really fucking high up, and be like, yeah, truth, but that's how Akira Toriyama's style used to be and still is. So there's now a second triangle within the nose. At a slight angle, it makes it seem like he's more confident. He knows where he's pointing his face at. There's like a little bit of psychology going on there. Now we want to do that classic Vegeta grin. How do we break that down? Well, if you look at Vegeta's mouth, he's got this little lip kind of thing, very straight across. It actually meets up to his ear. If you had to absolutely kind of map that out, again, it's going to be just down the line from his nose. So it's still going to be around here. And then from there, it'll be almost aimed up towards his ear like this, you know. When you're looking at someone who's grinning, their grin typically goes up into the corner of their face. Focus. When I'm grinning, you can tell literally just by the shape of my cheek that it's going this way. Like when I'm like, you know, I don't have to explain his facial feature like that, but at the same time, you don't get it until it's broken down in that way, and you have to draw emphasis on it. And while in Akira Toriyama's work, he doesn't draw this like big ass line, you still get a little bit of that line right here with the shadow. And then that gives this kind of negative space in between those red parts to give emphasis that it's going this way. There's also emphasis along the chin area. This makes this part look like a lower lip, and this part look like an upper lip almost, but it's negative. You don't actually see a line, but you know it's there due to lighting and shading and whatnot. Here is a curve, here is a curve. That looks a little silly, don't worry. We got this little curve. We're gonna bring it up. What does Vegeta's face look like? Curve, menacing, powerful. I'm a prince, ha ha ha. We have a curve up, slight curve over. We want slight curve over. We are still gonna put this line up just to remind you that we are going that way. Big smile. He's got some teeth to make it look like he's grinning a little bit. There is this, again, imaginary line that's kind of created here with that shadow bit. Like you can see in the shadow of his face in that first level. There's usually 3 different levels of shading, or 4 if you count like really, really dark and the highlights, but you want to use like 3 different tones within the same range. And with that first bit of shadow though, it kind of creates this invisible line of where his lip would be and where that shadow would cast off of. It's really simplified, but it works and you can understand and you don't need more information. You can already tell if you've gotten this far in your drawing, you know who the fuck this is. This is Vegeta, the Prince of all Saiyans. And you know who it is because you've been breaking down his shapes. Now, obviously, I did not get a picture of him with his whole hair out there, but we know where it's going. But anyway, if you're like, oh, I don't like that it was here on this paper or on this position, you can literally just be like, oh, well, I did want it closer to here. You can use a white light, put a light behind it, it will show through, put it up against a window, trace over it, you'll be fine. Or if you're okay where it's at, then we're just gonna go ahead and move on, okay? Now that we have Vegeta's face / hairline, we kind of want to do the rest of his hair. That's kind of like sweeping out into the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It's coming out like it's a fire. So that's what we want to do with Vegeta. We want his hair to come on outward because he's a Super Saiyan and he has all these things. We're gonna do these like little spike things. I just do spikes and I'm trying to follow what does this shape look like. At the same time, you want to look at where these triangle spiky shapes are happening. Big triangle here, big triangle here, big triangle here. Let's try that here. We are wanting Vegeta's shape of his hair to kind of come out here and into like a giant ass V, something like this. That's gonna come out and kind of do this and spike, you know, that kind of noise. It doesn't have to be perfect. You already know who you're drawing. You have the face down. The hair could literally just be anything, so just don't worry about it. I was just worried to make sure that it was going up and into this kind of pointed area. So the next would be, we're gonna just work lightly on Vegeta's body. I always love drawing Saiyan armor. The farther back behind the ear that you see up here, kind of like where this lobe is and where his hairline is, you can kind of see where that's coming down into the line of his neck. Same thing with earlier when I was showing where his hairline is going through the chin and then straight down for the neck. So you can do that the same over here. You can kind of see. That's why I said bring an eraser, because you don't know what you need to fix. And nothing's set in stone until you ink over it. And once you ink over it, Ashley's rule number 1, once you have inked your drawing, you are done with your drawing. Say it with me. Once you've inked your drawing, you are done with your drawing. Move on to the next one. You can only get better by doing more drawings, okay? And that's a very hard mindset to get out of. If you do that later, it'll never happen. Like, you'll just always trying to be a perfectionist, trying to get it better in the drawing you're doing now, and you'll spend like 3 weeks on it, and that's so much time that you could have been using drawing other things to just get better. Okay, I just wanted you to focus. And again, don't forget to flip it over. What is that? See, you can tell that it looks pretty good here because when I flip it both ways, it looks really even. It looks exactly how it should every time you flip it, and it looks natural. That's when you know you're like, oh yeah, I can see everything, kind of thing. I'm over here following his jawline like this. It comes to the kind of vein that goes in your neck. You know, this is where both of your main arteries are in your neck. If you were to look underneath all this armor, you would know that Vegeta's pretty buff. You kind of can tell the shape going on here. That's more of a kind of like a triangle, you could say. You don't have to draw this yet, but you know, just kind of get a motion for it. If this were to come up and out, you know, you have a kind of like this triangle shape up here. So you could do the same thing here. And then of course his shoulder is coming down. The human body is made with a lot of circles and squares and rectangles. I already know how to draw big boobs on dudes. We want his from his chin straight down. You want those neck muscles to be kind of prominent. Actually, comment down below who you'd want to see me draw in the next Draw With Me video. It doesn't have to be very clean. Don't worry if you got a shaky hand. You're gonna go over it and make it clean with your ink layer on. We've got his shoulder that comes down from his neck. You can kind of see through the armor, there's like this invisible line that makes this shape coming down like that. Because of his armor being this way, you kind of want to look at how the armor comes around like this, where if you drew a line, it'll still be pretty linear with each other and make it a little bit more laying flat as opposed to coming up. And then of course his arm is being cut off a little bit up here, and that looks convincing enough. I'm okay with it. You know, his arm is just folding, so we don't really need to worry about all the detail into that. I think that is a hard acknowledgement that that is definitely Vegeta. We can't be confused about who Vegeta is at this point. How do we want to go about the next round? first, because I'm on Clip Studio Paint because I can't think of words, I'm gonna make a new layer. Normally you can do this again by just putting a second piece of paper over your drawing. Literally just, you should be able to see it just enough, and then you can trace it with the ink, or you can just go ahead on the same piece of paper and go over it in ink and erase the pencil line. You can do it either way. The same way where you were trying to break down the forms of the original forms of Vegeta, you want to do the same for the line art. You really want to come up and study what is the artist doing. Like, is there a lot of big bold lines? Are they like this? Or is it more like super duper thin like this?
One eternity later.
Alrighty then. Now that we have our outline, we're going to do a quick coloring of it too. We will do like these highlighted areas and, you know, basic where shadows are. You want to kind of know, like, obviously the light is coming from here, from the sunlight, and so that's why this is most light and this is most dark. It seems obvious until you try to do that in coloring and then you realize you're doing it in the opposite direction or something. I'm going to color this real quick. So I think I finally got it done. Huzzah. And that's it, my guys. We did it. We drew Vegeta and we colored him. I'm sorry I did the speed painting, but I'd already been recording for over 2 hours at this point. My poor editor has so much to go through. I hope you guys got it done too. I hope you drew Vegeta and that you're proud of your work. Please, if you upload it to anywhere like Facebook or Instagram, tag me in it. I would love to see that. Send me a link in the description below. Like, it's cool. Like, don't spam my comments, but like, send me one. Send me like, hey, I drew this alongside you. What do you think? And I will come over and give you lots of love and heart your Instagram. So follow me on the social media and all that jazz. If you had fun watching this kind of content, please, if you feel like sticking by, hit the subscribe button over here on this side. And if you want, follow me on all of my social media. My commissions are still closed for now because I have some other projects I'm doing, but once I get some time, I'll let you know when they're available, so just stay tuned for that. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you don't forget or you don't miss any of my notifications of stuff that I upload. And let me know down in the comments below, what do you want to see me draw in the next Draw With Me video? As well as a speed painting video of any kind. I will literally just draw you anything. So let me know. Yeah, I don't think I have any other updates. So yeah, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Come back and see me next week. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.